I looted one of the most popular spots in the whole of Ark Raiders over 200 times and tracked the results of every single item I found. I'm going to share all that data with you today so you can see exactly what kind of drop rates you can expect for finding rare augment blueprints, including everyone's favorite, the Looting Mark III Survivor Augment. This is the augment that comes with 29 inventory slots, including 3 safe box slots, 80 kgs of carry weight, and it even lets you heal health whilst you are downed. There's also a wealth of other useful loot and blueprints that you can find in these containers, and I'm going to cover all of that and also let you know about some other containers literally a few yards away that nobody seems to rush for that can also drop amazing blueprints. So the room we're going to look at today is the breachable room in the reinforced reception area on Bluegate. This is a pretty well-known room for acquiring augment blueprints, but no one really knows what the odds of actually finding any in there really are. That is, of course, until today. This room can be hotly contested, and depending on whether you have incredibly friendly PvE lobbies like I do or spicier PvP ones, you're either going to find yourself sharing, missing out on, or fighting for this loot fairly often, but it is still worth it, especially if you're in need of augment blueprints, grenades, or explosive crafting materials. And despite its reputation, you'd be surprised how often you can actually loot this room safely and entirely if you put your mind to it. I opened over 200 security lockers and security cases in this room over the course of maybe 30 to 40 raids. Plus, I had a bunch of raids where I arrived too late and the room was looted, or I spawned in late or very far away, so I would just reset. If you want to get this loot as quickly as possible, you want to have some skill points in stamina-related skills such as Marathon Runner and Youthful Lungs, breaching speed increase from Proficient Prior, and also stuff like Looter's Instinct and Looter's Luck can really help with speeding up the process. I also always carry a stack of at least 5 adrenaline shots, which you can use when you run out of stamina in order to continue sprinting. With these, you can run immediately to the breachable room from wherever you spawn as quickly as possible. If you get one of the better spawns, such as the northeastern end of the village or the hills above reception, then you're going to start within 200 meters or so of the room, and you can be breaching that door within 75 seconds of the round starting. But even if you start far away, as long as it's the start of the round, you may as well go and check it anyway, and then there's an extraction nearby if you do need to go and reset. I had plenty of rounds where I would spawn in 500 meters away, and I'd still get to the room with just 3 minutes gone on the clock, and often find it completely untouched. On your way there, in the reception area, you can often find small arc that you can just ignore and run past, and also guard turrets, most of which you can just ignore unless there is one looking over the main breach door from the top of the stairs, in which case you're going to have to take that one down. If you have any seeker grenades, they can be really useful for taking down any small flying arc that might attack you when you're on your way there, or you could use lure grenades instead, so you can prioritize speed over getting engaged with arc and having to have a fight on the way. Once you're inside the room, if it's augment blueprints you're after, then the lockers and the padded security cases on the floor are your target. That's what we're looking at today. We're not worrying about the weapon case or the raider cache or the security breaches. We're just looking at the security specific containers. That's those lockers and padded cases. In here, you're going to usually find 5 or 6 lockers available and anywhere from 1 to 3 or sometimes even 4 cases on the floor as well. I'll jump into the exact loot pools of these containers in just a minute, but one more thing to make sure you do when you do this run is, even if this room is looted or after you've looted it, go out of the room, go straight up these stairs and head into this medical room, because in here there's another potential security case spawn on the ground. Then there's these 2 large security lockers next to it, but most importantly, these medical drawers over in the corner, these can actually drop rare augment blueprints as well. And over the course of my testing for this video, even though I didn't loot this area every single run, I still found 3 pink augment blueprints in these exact drawers. All of the testing for this video, by the way, was done on normal map mode, so not night mode or electrical storm or anything that would affect loot pools or drop rates. Some of them might be matriarch or something like that, but nothing that was a major map condition. Before we deep dive into the data, I'll just let you watch a typical run I did on this during my streams. You can see that whole process of getting there quickly from the spawn getting quickly down through the reception into the breach room, and then looting those containers as quickly as possible. I've done naked runs with extracting, can be fun. Yeah, I don't mind naked runs. They just need to make it so you don't get a safe box, so you still have to actually, you know, it's fine to come in naked, but the fact that you can come in naked, loot stuff, then just quit out and keep stuff is fucking wild. Hey Dick, how you doing? Trapper's Glade. It's kind of a gnarly spawn, this, because you often have to run past quite a lot of arc. I love the looting Mark III Survivor for solo. Yeah, it's my favorite augment in the game. I got it very early last season, and then I did the wipe, so I don't actually have it at the moment. That's what we're trying to acquire. But I don't want to, like, you know, trade really for blueprints, anything like that. So we're just trying to kind of grind it out ourselves. I don't mind, like, if someone drops it for me in game, just like organically, I don't mind that. But yeah, we're not sort of doing, like, you know, using alt accounts or swapping and stuff like that. But yeah, I've got, hello mate.
What's up, bro?
What's up? I've got so many of all of the other augments now, but it's just got really unlucky. I haven't pulled that. Or this guy might make an angry noise. He made an angry noise. Shady blueprint dealing in the dark corners of Bluegate, yeah. Oh, I kind of like it when that turret's there. It's an extra little protection. Sometimes you can just run past it like that as well. This one you have to kill because it will just murder you. Well, if you remove the naked thing, at least it encourages people to actually, like, fucking bring something into the raid. But yeah, I think that you are right. I think there should be some sort of, like, punishment for backing out of games in some manner. Keycard. Nice. Oh my god, let me get so many of the ones we don't want. Staff room key. Oh, I remember that one. Someone got their fucking music playing again. It was very musical yesterday. Missed one. Yeah, some sort of consequence of, like, quitting out of games repeatedly, I think would be good. Just to discourage that. Just encourage people to go and use an extract, you know. What is that noise? That just... Oh. Was that a deadline or something? Or was that just the matriarch? Oh my god. I think she's angry. Well, can't hear that guy's music anymore. Yeah, maybe a deadline. Yeah, I'm not used to hearing the noise because the only time I've used them is when I'm, like, stuck underneath a bastion or panicking running away from a bastion. I can't really hear anything. Right. Let's go reset. What was that key card? It was the damn staff room. And then another tactical Mark III defensive blueprint. Well, we're finding those blueprints. Not the one we want, but we're finding them. So in total, I looted 140 lockers and just over 60 security cases. The security cases are these black rectangular ones on the floor. These both seem to have the same loot pool, but quite different drop rates within that. These results could be refined with more data, but I think it's enough to give us a rough idea of how things work. In terms of the loot pool from these containers, I've broken them down into these categories. First up, you can find ammo. Any of the 4 different basic types of ammo can drop pretty frequently in those. Next, we have explosive material. this is your crude explosive and your explosive compound, both of these being useful for crafting all sorts of explosive items in the game, especially explosive compound for higher tier stuff. We then have basic materials, which is really just fabric, as this is a security type. This is the only one you're going to find. You're not going to get metal parts or plastic part, just a tiny bit of fabric every now and again. You can also find gun parts, any of the 4 major gun parts. That's simple, medium, heavy, and complex. They can all drop relatively frequently from these. Then we have the biggest category. This is security, general security items that are just for recycling, basically. I've also lumped in a couple of other items that dropped very rarely, mod components and sensors, which are security and technological items. They were very, very rare drops. The other stuff, very common. You're going to find loads of all that stuff, which you can recycle down into basic mats, along with the camera lens. Onto the more interesting stuff, we then have grenades. Over my runs, I found the tagging grenade, blaze, gas, showstopper, smoke, lure, and snap blast grenades. Potentially, you might be able to find others in there, but these are the ones that I found during my runs. Then onto the possible blueprints you can get. You can find any of the different augment blueprints in the game. There's 5 different augment blueprints to acquire, 2 combat ones, 2 tactical ones, and 1 looting one. I found all 5 of those across these cases, and as well as that, you can find the different colored light sticks, which is a bit less exciting. And I also found the complex gun parts blueprint 2 separate times, so it's fairly likely you'll be able to acquire the other gun part blueprints as rare drops in these cases as well. Lastly, you've got a small chance of finding different key cards. I found 5 different low and medium tier key cards when I was looting this room. I didn't find any rare ones, but there's definitely a chance you might be able to find one. That was across a mix of different maps. If we take a look at this graphic, this shows us every single thing we found in the security lockers, as well as the total amount of those things found over 140 tries, and also the chance of finding any one particular thing. You can see we have a 10% chance of finding heavy ammo, 47% chance of finding crude explosives, or a 3% chance of finding the Combat Mark III flanking blueprint. If we have a look at the same graphic for the security cases instead of the lockers, you can see those numbers are fairly different. The crude explosives dropped 70%, and the blueprints are much rarer, with individual blueprints being 1.5% drop rate from the 60 or so tries of opening security cases. Now, what's probably more helpful is to have a look at this grouped by category. So you can see here that's just for the security lockers, and you can see there's a 77% chance of finding security items. Remember, that's all the stuff you can recycle, like the baton and the unusable weapon. Explosive materials were 65%. Ammo, you have a 36% chance of finding ammo when you open one. Grenades at 26%, and then a 13.6% chance of finding a blueprint in one of these lockers. So that's about 1 in every 8 lockers. Gun parts are about 9%, the fabric about 8%, and then key cards I was getting one about 2% of the time. When we take a look at the same data for security cases, you can see that explosive materials are much more common, with security being a little bit less common at 53%. And then the blueprints have a much lower drop rate, just 3% from the security cases compared to nearly 14% in the lockers. So still with a chance of dropping them, but much lower. If you're curious to see the top 20 individual items for each of these, then these are the ones for the security lockers. You can see crude explosives. You find these almost every time you open one. You find these very commonly when you open the lockers. Often you just get one of these and nothing else. 50% of the time, you're going to find at least 1 crude explosive. Sometimes you can even get them in up to 3 at a time. The explosive compound, you'll get 17% of the time. And then you can see there's a whole bunch of basically all of the security stuff, the fabric, and then a few of the grenades coming in with the lower percents. Over on the security cases with the same chart, we can see crude explosives you're going to get 70% of the time. They're absolutely full of them. Explosive compounds slightly more commonly as well. A ton of ruined batons, and then loads of security stuff, ammo, and grenades. And then the stuff at the bottom is basically stuff that we found one of, like the flanking BP and the sensors. So in summary, we can see that this area is a very effective place in order to acquire augment blueprints, as well as useful explosives, crafting materials, and grenades. The security lockers are much more likely to drop blueprints than the cases, but the cases are still worth checking, as well as the medical drawers upstairs mentioned earlier on in the video. With there usually being between 6 and 9 of these containers in the breachable room, you're fairly likely to pull at least 1 blueprint if you get the entire room to yourself, and maybe every other run you might find an augment blueprint on average. Hopefully you found this useful. I'm definitely looking at doing more of these in the future, so if you have any suggestions on where or what to target next, then please drop a comment down below and let me know what it is. Don't forget to drop a like and a sub if you enjoyed it, and come say hi in my live streams on YouTube and Twitch. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Ben, and I'll see you next time.